Hello there guys, my name is MrYorkiesWorld and welcome back to probably the most requested video of 2019 already, and the year's only just begun. I mean, we're currently recording this on the 28th of January 2019, but nevertheless, this is my settings video. I've got my config and my settings. This PDF that I'm going to go through and my config file are both in the description. I wouldn't recommend just copying and pasting as ever, but I'm going to go through everything and also give you a little bit of information as to how I get the simulator running at 60 FPS with the i9-9900k and the 1080 Ti with 16 gigabytes of RAM. So, straight off the bat, the CPU. I don't have any affinity mask or fiber frame time fraction or anything like that in the config file. You'll be able to have a look at the config file to see what I have got in there, because there's a few things that I'm going to go into in a different video to do with shadows and stuff like that you might want to sort of work out for yourself, or you might want to take a look at my config file to sort of distinguish what I've done. But nevertheless, I'm using the i9-9900k. The base clock for that CPU is 3.6 gigahertz. I have it running at 3.6 gigahertz. I don't have it overclocked. However, I have the turbo mode enabled. So what will happen is the CPU can dynamically change its voltages and clocks. So this will actually go up to 5 gigahertz if sort of pressured into doing so. I know that because I have hardware monitors and stuff like that. I think is it system hardware monitor or something? Open hardware monitor, that's it, open hardware monitor, that clearly states that it's going up to that on turbo. So I'm not going to go into that, but that's what it does. It's very dynamic. So no, I've not overclocked. The RAM and the GPU, neither of those are overclocked either. And again, I don't really have any tweaks in the config apart from a shadows tweak, which I'll go into in a later video. But nevertheless, let's get straight into this full video. I'm going to go all the way from the application tab down to weather. Some stuff will be irrelevant, but here we go. So the application tab is pretty basic, nothing really to see here apart from the fact I don't have pause on task switch, and I've also disabled avatar mode, scenery, sort of error reporting like scenario and content. I've got rid of that. I always get rid of that, don't ask me why, it's just my personal preference. I've sort of thought to myself, well, if a system is taking time to enable an error report that actually that error is not going to make the system unstable, then that's probably going to be taking away a teensy bit of performance. Probably not, but there we go. That's just my theory behind it. So anything that could potentially take away performance from the sim, I have tried to disable. Information then. So this is down to you. In sort of like miscellaneous text, I only have message text enabled, and that's because of GSX and stuff like that. I don't have any labels or anything. Sound, again, this is down to me. I do have the engines a little bit higher than the rest of the sounds, just so I can hear them better. And I don't have mute on focus loss because I like to switch between screens. Traffic is all disabled because it's actually managed by Ultimate Traffic Live and Pro ATCX, so I don't need to enable additional traffic inside the simulator. Realism, again, this is down to personal preference. I personally have ignore crashes and damage. That's the only thing I've changed, the rest of it is default, and that's because I'm sick and tired of AI aircraft randomly spawning in at my gate and causing my flight to fail, because it thinks that I've crashed into something. So there we go. Display. This is probably one of the most important sections of sort of this setup. I do have different profiles depending on the airports that I'm using. Now, I'm going to go through the most regular one, which is this is what I sort of generically use for every flight. I call it regular settings. Pause the video if you wish to copy. But I've got FXAA switched off. I've got 2x SSAA. Texture resolution is set to high, and texture filtering is 16 times. The reason that I've not gone with a higher anti-aliasing setting or a higher texture resolution is because just because this is an i9 system and it's a tank, it doesn't mean that you have to absolutely blow everything out of the water and have everything ridiculously high. I'm perfectly happy with the way it is, and it works brilliantly. Again, I don't have blackout desktop, but I do have autofill the main window. That's because I like to be able to switch between screens. VSync, I've got it switched on. I have triple buffering, and I have the target frame rate set to unlimited. I've also got the mip-map virtual cockpit panels enabled. And if we go over to the world tab, you'll see that again I haven't set the level of detail radius to max. That's because I don't need it to max. It's a bit of a bad idea just because you get an amazing computer or like a new upgraded system. You don't really want to go ahead and put everything to the right. You still want to take everything nice and easy and sort of work out what is easiest for you that gets you the right amount of frames per second, more importantly the smoothness, and sort of allows you to be immersed in the sim at the same time as having decent visuals, decent performance, decent everything. It's a difficult combination of things to do, but if you work it right, like I've managed to do here, you can get a decent setup. So level of detail is ultra. Tessellation factor is high. I don't have it set anything apart from high, to be honest. Mesh resolution and texture resolution, 10 meters and 1 meter. Again, I'm not going to increase them all to the right because I don't need to increase them all to the right. And I don't need to use high resolution textures for the terrain because, to be honest, it makes no difference. And for some reason, ticking that has been known to induce stutters in my system, in my past system and this one, and reduce FPS and performance. I'm not sure why. The same thing with the scenery complexity. Like the scenery complexity is normal, so is the building density. I don't need anything higher than that, and to be honest, the defaults are pretty much perfect and realistic compared to what you'd get in the real world. Vegetation density is set to sparse because sort of normal, that's too many, and sort of low, that's off, that's none, so I sort of went for sparse. I'm not really bothered about trees, so that's the main reason why. Autogen and scenery draw distance, again, I've only set it to high. There's no point in having it any higher, because all it will do, specifically in this scenery objects section here, is reduce performance, and that is even on an i9 system, so just be aware of that. Now, dynamic 3D autogen, if I can speak, is disabled because all that does is animate the trees, which can use a hell of a lot more resources up that are unnecessary. And it also makes the trees look a weird greeny colour that's unnatural. Water detail, medium, because I'm not really bothered about the water looking anything else but just blue stuff that you fly over. I'm not really bothered about it. Enable bathymetry, obviously. And reflections, I've only got user vehicle. And I'll get onto that in the lighting tab in a second. Now, special effects detail and distance are both set to medium because that gives you the perfect balance. There's no real reason why you'd want to go all the way to max, in my opinion. It just uses more resources. So lighting then. So we've got HDR enabled. These are my brightness and everything settings if you want to copy them. Dynamic reflections are set to low because low is perfectly fine. I've got dynamic lighting enabled without any lens flare. Now, the shadow quality and draw distance are both set to medium, and I think it works absolutely perfectly. You'll notice in my config file, if you can find it, I can't remember the exact tweak, but I've got the shadows to look as nice as I can anyway, and it looks really nice in the sim, and there is a tweak that you have to do for that, but I'll make a different video about that. These are my casting and receiving settings. If you know about my previous config videos and settings videos, you'll know that I actually had internal and external vehicle casting and receiving, and clouds casting. That's all I used to have. However, with the new system, I am able to enable more sort of shadows and stuff, so it makes it look a little bit more immersive. And finally, we have the weather tab. So 90 miles on the draw distance, and high on the cloud coverage density. Active Sky will recommend that you use the maximum for the cloud density. However, I'm not really bothered about clouds, so that's the reason why. So there we have it. The rest of the settings are sort of just what comes with the sim, so it's nothing really that you'd need to change. These are my settings from the application to the weather tab. Again, a copy of my config file is in the description of this video, and a copy of this PDF file that you're seeing right now that I'm scrolling through is also in there. The rest of my add-ons are on the add-ons spreadsheet, and everything else you'll need are in the description. Now, thank you very much for watching. I hope I managed to answer some questions. If you want me to look more advanced, like sort of give you a bit more of an advanced look into your system and help you personally, you can become a patron of mine for as little as $1 a month, and that gives you access to some awesome perks as well. So check that link out in the description as well. Thank you very much for watching, guys. I will see you in the next one, and bye for now.